Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, the transformation has begun. It's as if Joe Biden doesn't exist anymore. Poof. Oh, he'll make an appearance from time to time. But he doesn't matter. Even though he's the sitting president of the United States for the next 5 months, even though we haven't seen him for like 3 days, all we got was a letter telling us he's not running, and not why, of course, but we know why, but they don't say why. This fan dance goes on. If the president has dementia, he should be removed under the 25th Amendment. We have a vice president who helped cover up his dementia. The Democrat Party and their media are pushing her to be the nominee. All the Democrat billionaires are stepping in now, same ones who pushed Biden. So the corrupt Democrat Party, the corrupt media, who've made a mockery of our electoral system, who stole the election from 15 million Democrat Party voters, now they're at it again. This is phase 2. Now, phase 2 is to get Kamala Harris nominated, even though she's never won a single primary ever. Even though she's never won a single delegate as a presidential candidate ever. To install her as the Democrat Party nominee for President of the United States. But even more, the media had kicked in their phase 2. Their phase 2. I've been very carefully monitoring this and taking note of this. If you go on my social media sites, you will see I'm listing them. So we're getting stories now like Kamala Harris is a fundraising phenom, a juggernaut. What about Kamala Harris's Jewish husband? Well, you wouldn't even know he's Jewish. Kamala Harris is siding with the Islamists in her party. She even praised the Islamists in the street. You remember them, the River to the Sea, Hitler Youth, but not the extremists, of course. And she will not be attending Netanyahu's speech. She will not be meeting with Netanyahu, and neither Biden nor Kamala Harris nor the Secretary of State Blinken were at the airport a few minutes ago to meet the head of state of the only Jewish state, Benjamin Netanyahu, as they have made an effort to dehumanize that man. and none of them will be present for his speech. Kamala Harris is desperate to get the anti-Semite vote out of Michigan, and she hopes in other states. And I am very much hoping that President Trump will meet with Netanyahu and see this as an opportunity. As an opportunity for, God forbid, for the country and for Jewish people in this country and overseas, if Kamala Harris is president of the United States. But the media want you to know that her husband might actually be the first Jewish first person, I guess they would call it. And as you well know, he's made a big deal of that. Not. They've told us that Kamala Harris is prepared to run against Trump. She, the tough prosecutor, he, the convicted felon. There was a piece by USA Today. Only 3% of the GOP convention was black, which caused me to respond. There are 3 black Democrat senators and a party that relies on the black community for its very existence for electoral victories. That really sucks. 3 black senators, one from California whose name nobody even knows outside of California, one from Georgia, and one from New Jersey. That's it. We're now told the Trump campaign is scrambling. They don't know what to do. They're second-guessing the pick of J.D. Vance. Now what do we do? Now they tell us that it's Trump's age and acuity that are the issue. That the script has been flipped, not Biden. And then they bring out people like Chris Christie. Oh, she's going to be tough. She's going to be very tough. All this in the last 24 hours, but more. Biden's one of the greatest presidents in American history. What? Oh, yes. Put aside all the rest. One news. These are all news articles. Put aside all the rest. Push that aside. This man's agenda, his achievements are second to none. They're historic. They're unparalleled. Forget about the gaffes. What Joe Biden did was an immense act of unparalleled patriotism. Excuse me? He was forced out. No, you don't understand. Patriotism. Like we've never seen before. Patriotism. So it begins. It was always going to begin. As I told you, here and elsewhere, these people, they never give up. Once a slime ball, always a slime ball. They never give up. And they will continue to do what they always do. They just did something that's never been done in American history. They stole an election from their own voters. I want to remind you, and I said this on Fox last night, this is very, very important. If that debate had taken place after the Democrat convention, because typically the first debate is in September, the conventions are in July and August, Joe Biden would be the nominee of the Democrat Party. All the lies, all the cover-up, it would have been too late to change him for another. But the fact is, Joe Biden has an excuse for his mumbling. He has an excuse for his inability to complete sentences. He has an excuse for his awkwardness. He has dementia. What's Kamala Harris's excuse? She doesn't have dementia, and yet she has the same issues. We're told she's going to appeal to young people. She hasn't appealed to young people yet. We're told she's going to appeal to black voters. She hasn't appealed to black voters. 2016, she didn't even run in a primary. Iowa, New Hampshire, she didn't even wait for the third state. South Carolina, over 50% of the voters in the Democrat Party in South Carolina are black, but she couldn't get there. She had a lot of money. The media don't remind us of this today. She had a lot of money, a ton of money. She had thousands of people show up. Thousands, when she announced her candidacy for president in 2016. And it fizzled out. But now they want to make sure that such a thing doesn't happen. But it's already begun in 24 hours. Rewriting Joe Biden's legacy, rewriting Kamala Harris's resume. And then attacking Donald Trump, undermining Donald Trump, questioning Donald Trump, his pick, and all the rest of it. We're going to get into this in more detail when I return. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. Ladies and gentlemen, over at MSLSD this morning, Simone Sanders, who's worked for Joe Biden in the past, well, she wasn't happy with what's taking place. But I want to play a little clip so you can hear, because I think there's more of this than not. But the remaking of Kamala Harris, the fictionalization of Kamala Harris is underway. You know, I've been calling our media in Unfreedom of the Press, which is now almost 5 years old, and of course on this program, the state-run Pravda and Al Jazeera. Pravda for the Marxists, Al Jazeera for the Islamists, and that is the fusion of the base of the Democrat Party. I understand there's an echo chamber. Rush used to talk about it. And so you can hear it out there. But let's take a listen to MSNBC's Simone Sanders today. Cut 28, go.
I hear Jim Clyburn saying, and he is a statesman of the caucus, but he said that they are not unanimous, but they are unified. But there are 35 House Democrats that, in my opinion, have just
are neither.
Are neither. And frankly, it is despicable how President Biden is being treated by people whom he has known most of, if not his entire political life, people he has helped elect. It is just, I just don't think that, like, God bless Jim Clyburn and frankly the vice president, because let other people have their way. They're trying to politically bury the president alive and force him out. And it is treacherous. Look at this. This is treacherous. It's treacherous. I understand the Senate. I understand some of the senators. I understand that there are some tough races this cycle. I also understand that it is not all the frontline members, but there is just a way to go about things, and this is not the way. This is embarrassing.
And I think to that point, broadly speaking, the way you don't go about it is a public evisceration of your nominee. By
the way, this is the former chairman of the RNC, the former lieutenant governor of Maryland, the former Republican Michael Steele, who's really become one of the worst reprobates on cable. And that's hard to accomplish. Go ahead.
This was two-pronged. One, folks who approached him and he told them to stand down, he's staying in the race. So they got mad and they started leaking and speaking and doing what they typically do in Washington. And two, those who've just been at political odds with him forever, who were not part of the Biden bandwagon, were ticked off that he actually turned that 2020 campaign around to the point that he got the nomination from some folks who thought they deserved it more than him, or those that had been working with him in the past who never wanted him to have that opportunity after the Biden-Obama years. Obama-Biden years. So we get all of that. But this public evisceration is what I think Democrats fail to understand.
You know, you're dumb as a doorknob. Unfortunately, always have been. There's no public evisceration. That's over. That's gone. That's done. He's now the greatest president in modern history, don't you know? In a blink of an eye. In a blink of an eye. He's now the greatest president in American history. Put aside, you know, the gaffes and the lies and the cover-ups. And they're the media, once again, telling us what to believe, creating a narrative, telling us what reality is, trying to frame the environment, frame the politics, the Pravda Al Jazeera media. That's exactly what they're doing. And they're going to be doing it day in and day out. Because, look, that's what you do if you're of a totalitarian mindset. It's called repetition. It's called controlling thought. And so now, Donald Trump was nearly assassinated a little over a week ago. The dehumanization is underway yet again. Kamala Harris, who was largely viewed as the second imbecile at the White House, barely coherent, barely able to complete her sentences, a cackler, weak. We can't get rid of Biden because guess who's in line? Now, she's Rosa Parks. Indira Gandhi. Oh, yeah. The best of the best. Harriet Tubman. Suddenly, in 24 hours, she's changed. Again, she couldn't get a single damn delegate when she ran for president. She was the first one out. Despite being a woman, despite being black, despite supporting abortion on demand right up to the last second, despite it all. Now she's invincible. She's going to save the country. For democracy, of course. Over at CBS, over at CNN, over at MSNBC. Oh, yes. They're in full-throated propaganda mode. And we have Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren, John Garamendi. Oh, yes, they're all out there. A conga line of liars, frauds, people who told you, I've met with Joe Biden. Man, this guy is smart. He is sharp as a tack. This guy, I don't know what they're talking about. This is all the Republicans have. Oh, them. The people who support the stealing of the election from their own voters. From their own voters. The morning schmo is turned on a dime, as has Mrs. Schmo. It's a new day. I can feel the excitement. And so who are we hearing from? We're hearing from the same people in Washington, D.C., the same media in Washington and New York that brought us to this point. The same ones who've been lying to us day in and day out. Serial liars. Pathological liars. They're lying again. They're lying again. They're not held accountable. Nobody's resigned. Nobody's been fired. They haven't moved them out of their positions. They still have their big asses in the same big chairs that they were before. And they're still going at it. I'll be right back. Hi, this is Mark Levin, and I've got an urgent message that can't wait. September 18th is coming, and with it, President Trump's sentencing. We're staring down this barrel again of potential market chaos. The question isn't if there's going to be a fallout, but how much. In times of instability, many smart investors turn to gold as part of diversification. And when I think of gold, I think of Advantage Gold. These folks are true partners in helping Americans find financial stability. Advantage Gold's experts understand the connection between politics and economics, and they can navigate you through these crazy times using gold to help shield your hard-earned wealth. So call my trusted friends at Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. If you wait until September 18th, it might be too late. 800-900-8000 for your free investment kit. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, speaking to the 4 out of 5 Americans who are literate at 877-381-3811.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris will have to pick a vice president, you see. Now, I want to tap the brakes just a touch. She's not the nominee yet. I know they're trying to force this down everybody's throat because this is what they do. They don't want a primary. They don't want a mini primary, of which there's no such thing. In other words, they don't want a dispute. They don't want a challenge. They don't want any other candidates. They don't want any other votes. When it comes to Chicago, nothing. And this is how you get in trouble. This is what happens. Biden changed the primary system. The Democrat Party did. The media also, quite frankly, so that he couldn't get a challenge. They pushed Robert Kennedy out of the Democrat Party and everybody else. They threw Iowa and New Hampshire under the bus. They put South Carolina first because that's Joe Biden's favorite state. That's what they did. No effective challenge to him. Now, Donald Trump had many challenges to him, and he beat them. Not so with Joe Biden. And yet, why shouldn't he have had? Guy had dementia. The guy couldn't engage with the public. He couldn't give a speech. He wasn't available to the press. Easy pickings, right? But the machinery kicked in, just like the Communist Party of China, or the Communist Party of the old Soviet Union, or the Communist Party in Cuba, or the Communist Party in Venezuela, or the Communist Party in North Korea, or these other fascistic Islamo-Nazi parties and so forth all over the world. I'm going to have competition? What are you, nuts? That's why on Fox last night I played the clip of the former president of Communist China, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, how Xi had him removed unceremoniously in front of the quote-unquote delegates, never to be seen again. That's what this reminds me of. Joe Biden's in hiding. He's got COVID. I had COVID, Mr. Producer. I was behind the microphone. You can still talk. You can still be seen. You don't have to meet with people. I have a feeling Joe Biden is furious. I have a feeling Joe Biden actually regrets what he did. I have a feeling that the pressure became insurmountable. I mean, you got to have a big back to be stabbed in the back as many times as Joe Biden was, from his media friends, from his friends in Congress, from his donor friends. I mean, he felt he was going to get it. Big deal. He campaigned from his basement last time, but then his ego got the better of him, and he decided, I'll show them I can kick Trump's butt debating him. And then the media saw, well, look, we've done everything we can to cover up for this dummy, and now he's exposed himself to the 30 or 40 million people who don't pay attention, and he's got to go. We got to broom him out of there. Immediately. Even before the debate was 10 minutes long, it started, led by the New York Slimes and their ilk. The New York Slimes, which has never met an autocrat it hasn't liked. Throughout the world, I might add. And that same corrupt ruling class in the Democrat Party and their media, well, now it's Kamala's turn. They don't want you to know how stupid she is. They don't want you to know what a buffoon she is. They don't want you to know what Willie Brown told us in an op-ed before she was selected for vice president. A very negative op-ed. And he made her career, among other things. They want you to read that stuff. The media don't exist to inform, to challenge, to expose. They exist to promote, to celebrate, to indoctrinate. And that's where we are. And I'll give you a few examples right now. Here is, get to the right page of my clip, Margaret Brennan. A disaster. She now does Deface the Nation, and she does it very poorly. She's a hack. And here she is yesterday. Cut 17, Mr. Producer, go.
My sources agree with yours in terms of not seeing a head-to-head challenger, but the question then becomes who is the person who stands beside her August 19th at that Democratic convention.
So that's it. Her sources, 3 people, told her there's going to be no challenger. So that is now part of the push, the propaganda, the effort by the Democrat Party, Al Jazeera, Pravda Media, the state-run media. This is what they're doing now. No challenger. Got that? No challenger. We can't expose her for who she is and what she says. No. No challenger. Everybody unite around Kamala. My sources tell me there will be no challenger. What? Your sources? What sources? 3 people? 6 people? 1 person? Your husband? What? But now, we're beyond that. It's a fait accompli. She's going to be coronated. Just like Joe was. Now, who will she stand with? That's the issue now. So we've skipped another couple of levels, see. This stuff called democracy, very dirty, primary process, who needs it? We got this figured out. We have a marijuana smoke-filled room. We're all set. Go ahead.
To seek the nomination in that vice president role. That's where the focus is.
That's where the focus is. She's it. Okay? Period. She's it. Now that's where the focus is. Now Pelosi said she's all in. Pelosi's such a slimeball. My God. Supported Biden almost up to the end, then turned on him like a dog. Then Kamala Harris comes in, holds back. Now she's all in. She's the power behind the throne. I even hear my friend said, no, she's not. She's not a power behind anything. She's an old lady, 84 years old. Her face is dripping. It's melting in front of us because of her multiple facelifts. She can barely keep her false teeth in her face. She can't complete sentences. She can't complete thoughts. She's shuffling along. Oh, that's the power behind the throne. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was told looking to challenge her would be committing political suicide to try to go head-to-head after Joe Biden.
And who told you that? Her sources told you political heads. Go ahead. If she doesn't have a challenge... Hold on now. If she doesn't have a challenger, it's not because it would be political suicide. It's because it would be a mess. To jump into this, it's a no-win. What they won't tell you is the Republican Party is more unified than any time since Ronald Reagan. What they won't tell you is the Republican Party is flush with money. What they won't tell you is that Donald Trump has a pretty damn good agenda. And what they won't tell you is that the Trump supporters are fired up. Now, don't take anything for granted. We talk about that, and we'll continue to talk about it, but that's not for this moment. So it's political suicide. No, it's a mess. Why would you jump into the middle of this? You wouldn't. If you're a strong governor, a strong senator, you wouldn't. Go ahead.
And making it very clear, just within minutes of announcing he was not going to seek re-election, that he was endorsing her. That's what we're looking at now.
So Biden is endorsing Kamala Harris. Now Biden, who they were just, raking over the coals, throwing under the bus, throwing off the roof, calling him unpatriotic, going on and on and on. Now he's a saint. He was a devil. He's a saint. Oh, yes, I can see the special light behind Biden. No, actually, I can't because we can't see Biden. But you get the point. My God. He's so selfless. So selfless. Where is he? I don't know, but he's selfless. We know that. And my sources tell me that, once he endorsed her, that's over. That's a suicide to challenge Kamala. Just as it was suicide to challenge Biden. Suicide. CBS News tells us, by her sources, which are probably Kamala supporters or Nancy Pelosi. It's so predictable. This is why you people are hated. Because you're frauds, phonies, and buffoons. But she's not the only one. There's John King on CNN, the Constipated News Network. There's Johnny. What's Johnny think? Cut 18, go.
Kamala Harris was Joe Biden's border czar. Look how it went. Do you want her running the economy? Do you want her running national security? And then other issues about San Francisco and the like. And look, let's just be honest about this. You can be certain that racism and sexism, if not directly from the Trump campaign, from other forces, are going to come flying into this campaign.
Yeah, that's really sad to hear that, but it's obviously true.
Excuse me? Racism and sexism are going to come flying into the campaign. You can be sure. It's obviously true. Who is that? Oh, Wolf Blitzer. Somebody woke him up. It's obviously going to be true. So they're already telling you. The media, they're going to use racism and sexism. They're going to use racism and sexism. Now, Tim Scott was running for president. They were the racists attacking Tim Scott. Sarah Palin was running for vice president. They were the misogynists attacking her. Sexism. By the way, that's a whole other story, Mark. So in other words, you can't criticize Kamala Harris. Why? Because of her race and her sex. It's that simple. Even though you're not supposed to mention her sex, think about her sex, identify her sex, doesn't matter. So now that's the defense. John King has told us, and he's been seconded by Wolf Blitzer, who sounds more and more every day like Joe Biden, to be quite frank about it. But there you are. So if you attack a candidate running for president who's never received a single vote as a presidential candidate, not a single delegate as a presidential candidate, if you criticize her, criticize this, try and get in the way of what's taking place, you're going to be a racist and a sexist. That's it. They've already told you. Oh. So they can shut down debate and defeat, they hope, Trump by limiting what he can actually say and do. And because Trump has made such inroads, honestly, in minority communities, they're going to pull out the race card. Look, this is what this party has done since the party was founded. It just depends on the era which race card it pulls out. It'll pull out a race card against blacks. It'll pull out a race card for blacks. It'll pull out a race card for whites. It'll pull out a race card against whites. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They'll be for Israel and the Jews when they think it helps them. Now they'll be for Hamas when they think it helps them in Michigan. And so Netanyahu flies in today, and he's not met by Biden, he's not met by Harris, and he's not met by Blinken. The prime minister of the only Jewish state. And yet I got to listen to this idiot Moskowitz from Congress and these other left-wing Democrat Jews. Oh, he's a moderate. I got to listen to the idiot governor of Pennsylvania. What's so special about it? All of a sudden, this guy Shapiro, oh, he's the best. He's the best. What the hell has he done? Nothing. No, you don't understand. This guy's good. They won't pick him. Trust me on that. They already have the would-be Jewish first person whose daughter hates Israel and has more kind things to say about Hamas. And this nebbish her husband, his mouth was shut while Jewish kids on our college campuses were running for their lives. But don't worry. That's the kind of Jew the liberals like. That's the kind of Jew the Democrat Party likes and the media like. Let's stop fooling ourselves. There's certain Jews they like, certain blacks they like, certain Hispanics they like, certain women they like. They'll pull the cards out if in those individual categories they share their radical left ideology. Otherwise, they smear them. That's it. It's that simple. Donald Trump's Jewish grandchildren? Never heard of them. Jewish daughter? Never heard of her. Jewish son-in-law? Nope. They attack the son-in-law, Jared. They attack the daughter, Ivanka, attack them relentlessly. You never heard them talking about Ivanka. You know, they're going to use sexism and anti-Semitism. Have you ever heard them say that? No. Not once. Tim Scott's running. Have you ever heard them say, you know, they're going to use racism, I think, an awful. Yeah, I'm afraid that's absolutely true. Not once did you hear them say that. Racism against Clarence Thomas. Oh, no. You can't say that. We have to dehumanize that man. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there was not a sighting, but a hearing. Joe Biden apparently called into a Kamala Harris event. As our friend Stephen Miller posted, retweeted by my wife, that's how I saw it. It sounded like a hostage tape, Mr. Producer. And then, hi everybody, it's Joe here. Hey, Joe, the greatest president ever, Joe! Yes, I just wanted to call in and give my best to Nancy Pelosi. No. It is a Kamala Harris event. I've only just begun, America. My foot's on the gas pedal. Right after the top of the hour, here we go. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, hello, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. So, Joe Biden was a great president, still is. So why don't they nominate him? No, I can't do that. Why? Well, we just can't. We're not going to tell you why. Oh. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Scarborough over at MSNBC. The Democrats didn't disenfranchise 14 million Democrat voters. No. What's wrong with you people? Cut 19, go.
And I will say...
Is he calling in? Hold on now. Sounds like he's calling in. What's with all these people? I will say... What is he doing? Is he have Joe Biden sitting on his lap, Mr. Producer? What's going on here? Their big shindig at the Rehoboth Beach Palace? Let's start from the top again, shall we? Cut 19, go.
And I will say the most telling thing about how positive this may be for the Democratic Party is the Republican response.
So stop. See, they can never say what's positive without attacking us. What's positive without attacking us? So it's all positive. Look, what's been going on? It's the Republicans who don't have their footing. It's the Republicans who don't know how to respond. And if they do respond, they're racist and they're sexist. We know this. They just don't know how to respond. Go ahead.
This morning, Newt Gingrich was going on Twitter talking about how this is a violation of democracy. It's shocking and stunning that they're delegitimizing the votes of 14,500,000 Democrats. You then, of course, have Mike Johnson going around saying that he's going to do everything he can to try to nullify this, despite the fact Democrats even had their convention yet. So he's standing on.
Hold on. That's the point. They didn't even wait for their convention, Joe. You're missing the entire point, aren't you? Is it intentional? Yes, I think it is. They haven't even had their convention yet, so let's all sit and wait. Wait for what? It's not a secret. It's a coronation. It's not a convention. This is like Xi with his convention, in which his delegates voted that he would be president for life. And he had removed the prior president, humiliated him, and moved him out. We see what's going down, Joe. You're participating in it. But you know, we saw Newt there, and then we got Mike Johnson talking about who we haven't even had the convention yet. Exactly. Doesn't seem like an open convention. Or remember, they were talking about a mini primary. Yeah, we got to have a mini primary. Now, you know, when you have a primary, we have what's called voters. So it's not a mini primary of any kind. It's not a primary of any kind. It is tyranny. The ruling class of the media and the Democrat Party eliminated the primary. Just eliminated it. All these delegates are there because people voted for Joe Biden for president, not Harris. Oh, we haven't even had the convention yet here. We just heard Margaret Brennan at CBS confused, and she's a fraud and a phony and a fool, but nonetheless, we're not going to see a head-to-head challenger. That's what she said. Her sources tell her there is none. It would be political suicide. The only issue here is who will Kamala pick for her vice president. Here we have a person who never got a single vote for president, and she's going to pick a vice presidential nominee. Who will she pick? Go ahead with Joe Scarborough.
I've also had a good bit of reporting deep inside the Trump camp that this is the one thing that he feared. Donald Trump has always considered himself...
is this a joke deep inside the Trump camp, Joe Scarborough? This is the one thing he feared? You know, if you know Donald Trump, seriously, he doesn't fear anything, let alone another politician. He has no fear of this whatsoever. I can tell you that. He just doesn't. He doesn't fear this. And the idea that Joe Scarborough is going to tell us what's going on deep inside the Trump camp is ridiculous. But let's play along. Go ahead.
The ultimate disruptor. And for the first time, not just in his political life, but the first time in his media life.
This is the guy that's been calling him Hitler. This is the guy that's been dehumanizing him probably more than anybody else. The man was almost assassinated 9 days ago. Now he fears Kamala Harris. Let me ask you something, Mr. Producer. You're almost assassinated 9 days ago. You think he fears Kamala Harris? The man who gets up, puts his fist in the air, says fight, fight, fight. He fears Kamala Harris? What kind of stupid commentary is this? Oh, I forgot. It's MSNBC. Go ahead.
Life. The disruption is on the other side. And Donald
you see,
Trump,
ladies and gentlemen, this is the man who's been a propagandist for the Democrat Party and Biden. Now he's continuing the disruption, the chaos is on the Republican side. They don't know what to do. Was J.D. Vance a mistake? Now, what do? They don't know how to run against her. And by the way, if they do, they will be called racists and sexists. We've got this cornered. We've got this figured out. We've boxed them in. Isn't it amazing how the Democrat Party itself didn't find her to be such a fantastic candidate in 2016? They went for the old white guy who had early set dementia. They didn't go for her. She was a woman back then, best I know. She was black back then, best I know. Ooh, she could appeal to young people and black people, but she didn't. She appealed to any people. She couldn't get out of the starting gate. But now, starting gate, she's already past the finish line. Oh, yeah, and the Republicans are scared to death. Scared to death. They're the ones that know what the hell to do. We Democrats now, we are set. We got our candidate. No challengers, please. We don't do that anymore in our primaries, such as they are. In fact, we don't even do primaries anymore. Yeah. Now they don't know what to do, these Republicans. They have to respond, he goes on, to this shocking turn of events. They're not happy about it at all. I think this is why you're seeing a lot of Trump's acolytes in politics and the media coming out bitterly complaining about this. No, Joe. We're speaking the truth. We're observing. What the media won't report because the media are in on it, like you. The Democrat Party just stole the primary from the primary voters and handed, and wants to hand, and is saying they're going to hand, and saying they will defend anybody who challenges it, the nomination to Kamala Harris. And the Democrats may be giddy, but what Democrats are we actually talking about, America? Working people? People in black communities and Hispanic communities? Union members, non-union members, truckers, electricians, plumbers, they're giddy, they're happy about this? No, they're not. Nobody's consoling with them. Nobody. The same frauds and phonies and fools who pushed Joe Biden into the presidency, who wanted to push him into the presidency again, and but for the early staging of the debate, he'd be their nominee today. The same people who lied to you, who covered up, who've made a mockery of their own party and of the electoral system. They're at it again. They're telling you what everybody thinks. Next thing you know, they'll be telling you that they're defending democracy from us. And that this was a transparent process. When in fact, this is what fascist, Marxist, and Islamist regimes do. This sort of thing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan. Oh, yes. Elon Musk, man, he's a fighter. Look, I'm not a special pleader for the guy, but when a multi-billionaire steps up, takes over Twitter, has fixed it effectively, has taken on the left, the radicals, the Democrats, the anti-free speech crowd, has, over the course of time, moved more and more conservative, constitutional conservative, and is open about his views, that person needs to be appreciated. That person needs to receive public credit. And Elon Musk posted the audio of Kamala Harris on X as follows. Cut 9, go.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. And good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Can never hear that enough, can we, Mr. Producer? I mean, this is what you're going to get. Stupid. You must be sexist. No, not in the least. Must be racist. No, not in the least. An idiot's an idiot. It doesn't matter their physical features. And that's what we have here. An idiot. I want to remind you of something, folks. Take my word for this. I'd like you to do something. Would you do that for me? Would you do this for me? I'd like you to do something. It costs nothing. And in fact, I think you'll appreciate it very, very much. I'd like you to go to marklevinshow.com. MARKLEVIN show.com. marklevinshow.com. Click on the audio rewind. Select your favorite platform, and that's how you download the Mark Levin podcast. Go to marklevinshow.com, click on audio rewind, and select your favorite platform. Or you can search Mark Levin Show. That's Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform. It's that simple. Now, you now can find all my full podcasts, interviews, specials on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. How do you do it? YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show. It couldn't be easier. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube, Mark Levin Show in YouTube. Now, if you are essentially an internet illiterate, and that's me, pretty much, we've made this so easy. You're either 2 steps away or 3 steps away from being able, on your iPhone, on your whatever kind of cell phone you have, or elsewhere, to have this program at your beck and call. Let's say you work when this show is on. Let's say we're preempted. Let's say you're busy. Whatever it is. It's always good to have options. So one more time, go to marklevinshow.com, MARKLEVIN show.com. Click on Audio Rewind and select your favorite platform, or search Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform. Or you can now find all my full podcasts and my current one, interviews and specials on YouTube. Go to youtube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. That's actually the easiest way to do it. Search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. And there it is at your fingertips. Whether you're going to use it this minute or not, always have it at the ready. That's the key. Have it at the ready, in my humble opinion. All right, a couple more, then I want to move on to this Secret Service debacle, because it matters. John Meacham claims to be a historian. John Meacham was writing speeches for Joe Biden when he was on the Morning Schmo on MSNBC, praising Joe Biden's speeches, which he wrote but didn't disclose until later. We've got these kinds of historians that are more politician than historian. David Brinkley's another one, in my view, but there's others. Beschloss, Michael Beschloss. He's gone over the edge, in my view. He's a kook, my opinion. But John Meacham is on the Morning Schmo show today. Who watches this crap, by the way? Well, you know, it's the real, it's the big show on MSNBC. Exactly. You know, my Saturday and Sunday show on Fox, I crush MSNBC and CNN combined. On this show, on radio, I'm on multiple podcast platforms. You just heard me. YouTube. I'm on my website. We're on various podcast platforms. We're on satellite. You can live stream us. Plus, we're on terrestrial radio. Ubiquitous. If you want to hear this show, you can hear this show no matter what. All over the world, we get input into this show. All over the country, we get input into this show. There is nobody, there's no thing, there's nobody who can come between you and me, period. And between me and you, period. That's why I give out this information from time to time. The key is to go to marklevinshow.com. That's the mothership. That'll tell you what you need to do or can do to hear the program no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, whenever you want to. But here's this John Meacham on the Morning Schmo today. And again, we are now going to recreate Joe Biden into the greatest president in American history, Kamala Harris into the greatest vice president in American history, now the greatest candidate in American history. And if you don't agree, you're obviously a racist and a sexist. That's it. Case closed. And she will be coronated. How do we know? Because Margaret Brennan at CBS News just told us. Nobody's going to go head-to-head with her. No. My sources tell me. The only question is, who does she pick for vice president? Here we go. Cut 20, go.
President Biden stepped in and he bent history in what I would argue, and I think most of the folks here would agree, is a very American. That. You can disagree with the policy details. You can disagree with the emphasis here or there. But by God, the American consensus in which we
shut up, you idiot. There is no American consensus. What he did is he took Obama and Bernie Sanders' agenda, particularly Sanders' agenda. He had all these radical kook Marxists and Islamists in his administration. They ruled by fiat. They ruled by regulation. They ruled by executive order. They violated the Constitution, separation of powers. They undermined our system. And by God, nobody can say that by consensus, of course, of the American people. What a fantastic president he was. I'll be right back. You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan.
Making sure the land of the free and the home of the brave stays that way. Dial Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
So the director of the Secret Service did not resign, as was reported. What was it? Over the weekend. She says she's no intention of resigning. None. There was a long hearing today, and I was impressed. 98% of that hearing was serious. Some of them had to get their gun control comments in, but even they were under control. This is the House Oversight Committee led by Comer, and the ranking Democrat is Raskin. And they obviously got together and said, we got to get to the bottom of this. Trump today, somebody else tomorrow. And I have to say I was impressed. From the chairman to the ranking member to the vast majority of the rest of the members. They're not buying this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Biden administration, the Secret Service leadership is in full cover-up mode. Donald Trump, you know, was almost assassinated. The media has forgotten all about it. They want to move on. In fact, the day after, we were hearing from MSLSD and CNN that, well, his language helped cause this. Well, stop showing that iconic photo. You'll make him into some kind of person who's bigger than he should be. Mythical. Oh, was it a piece of glass? Sickening. Sick bastards in the media, the same ones that are telling you, move along, Biden's out, Kamala's in, deal with it. Don't criticize, you be sexist and racist. Sickening people. Secret Service Director Cheatle. So why hasn't Biden fired her? The same Joe Biden who denied Secret Service protection to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. until the day after the assassination attempt on Trump? Seriously? So, yesterday, our friend, Speaker Mike Johnson, is a good man. He was on ABC with Martha Raddatz. She's not a good man. In fact, she's a lousy woman. May I say woman? Kamala, may I say woman? By the way, Kamala's talking pronouns, but if you dare criticize her, all of a sudden you're sexist. We're not going to put up with this crap, this schizophrenia, this propaganda, this idiocy of the Democrat Party. They are the ones who are racist, and they're the ones who are sexist. And they're worse. They're corrupt. But anyway, here it goes. Cut 24. Go. Cut 24. Go.
Do you think Kimberly Cheatle should resign immediately or that President Biden should fire her?
Both. I called on her to resign over the weekend, and when it became apparent that she wouldn't, I think on Friday, then I called for President Biden to fire her. The buck should stop at his desk. We absolutely must ensure accountability so the American people can trust that this job will be done, that we will protect our presidents and former presidents. It's the number one job of the Secret Service, not anything else.
That's it. Eric Burleson to the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle on White's House hearing today stated that she uses encrypted apps to speak with colleagues on occasion. Encrypted apps? What they're trying to get at is, how do you communicate with these people? Because we need access to your records. They've asked for all the video, all the audio. They've asked for everything. So far, they've gotten nothing. This is 9 days after the assassination attempt. 9 days. 9 days. Cut 3. Go.
I want to talk about communications. Representative Boebert asked earlier about using encrypted apps that you said you have not used, I guess, Signal. Have you used any encrypted app to communicate from your personal device?
I do on occasion use encrypted apps to communicate.
So you use some form of an encrypted app to communicate with people within the federal government, with local law enforcement? Whom are you communicating using the encrypted apps?
Many times it's with colleagues and associates.
So you're communicating with colleagues on a personal device?
There are times that the Secret Service, when we work internationally, with some of our partners that they don't have the same texting capability.
And you're not able to do that with your government issued device?
Recently, we have been able to install some of those apps on government devices.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that we can get access to. I'm actually shocked that you are using your personal device and encrypted communication tools. I think that might be the most shocking thing that I've heard today. I didn't expect for you to say that.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting, if you'd listened very carefully to that, she says, I do on occasion use encrypted apps to communicate. And she said many times it's with colleagues and associates. Then she said she uses it when we work internationally with some of our partners that don't have the same texting capability. Well, which is it? Do you use it with colleagues and associates, or do you use it internationally with some of your partners? What they're trying to do is figure out how she communicates, and they want to try and get access to it. But they're wondering, why would you use a personal encrypted phone to communicate? You have a government phone to communicate. Why would she? Lauren Boebert, well, she asked about this. Let's go to cut 2, Mr. Producer. Cut 2, go.
Since the assassination attempt, you are under oath, reminding you. Have you communicated with anyone at the White House on an encrypted messaging app like Signal? Yes or no?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to surrender your personal phone for analysis?
If I am required to do so.
Okay. I will look into making that request because I would like to see your personal phone to see if you're communicating over encrypted messaging apps.
What she's trying to get at, and it's good, they're not getting information, America. There seems to be some kind of cover-up going on here. 9 days later. And even the Democrats are saying this. What the hell's going on here? You know, it could have been Biden. It could have been anybody. What the hell's going on here? And can you imagine what would have happened, they said, if President Trump had been assassinated? What would happen to this country? AOC, the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheatle. Cut 4, go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheatle, respectfully, what you had just laid out about 60 days. We are currently in the midst of an especially concentrated presidential campaign in the moment. That is also paired with, of course, elections happening across the country. They're happening in about 100 days. So the notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party, is not acceptable. And I think it's very important to understand that. This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable.
Very important point. And what is this 60 days? 60 days to figure out what? You know, if you're working 24/7, you should have this figured out in a matter of days. I mean, it's important enough, is it not, America? The answer is yes. Michael Cloud at the White House hearing today, questioning Cheatle. Cut 5, Mr. Producer, go.
How many spent shell casings were found on the roof?
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay. Word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd have to defer you to the FBI's investigation.
Okay. You're not curious about, you don't communicate with them? No. Okay.
He wasn't the only one like, what the hell are you talking about? You're the head of the Secret Service. This is on your watch. You have the power to find out whatever the hell you want. You don't know how many shell casings there were? You haven't talked to the FBI about this? Ro Khanna, another Democrat, to the Secret Service director. Cut 6, go. Well, let me set it up this way. She was asked if she truly believes that she has what it takes to continue being director of the Secret Service. She says she's committed to providing answers and continue serving. And by the way, they all mentioned that after President Reagan, that assassination attempt, the head of the Secret Service resigned because he said, obviously, there's confidence has been lost in him. This woman's fighting. I would suggest to you that it won't succeed over the long run. Go ahead. Cut 6.
Thank you, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
I want to thank the chair and the ranking member for convening this hearing on a bipartisan basis. I join them in condemning the horrific assassination attempt on the former president. I am relieved for the sake of the country that he wasn't seriously hurt and that he survived, and my thoughts with him and his family during such a traumatic event. I also want to express condolences to Corey Comprator's family and recognize his heroism in saving his daughter's lives, and to the victims of that awful event. Now, Director Cheatle, would you agree that this is the most serious security lapse since President Reagan was shot in 1981 of the Secret Service?
Yes, sir, I would.
And, do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned. And Stuart Knight was not a Democratic appointee or a Republican appointee. Look, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just don't think this is partisan. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign. That's what Stuart Knight did. He was a Republican appointee, and he took responsibility. And I think you need to reflect. This is not a question of you. It's a question of the American people. You cannot go leading a Secret Service agency when there is an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. I would say that about anyone who is running. And so I guess my question to you is, what's the difference between your position and what Stuart Knight did?
What I will tell you, sir, is that I am dedicated to finding the answers to what happened. And like every Secret Service agent, we don't shirk our responsibilities. I will remain on and be responsible to the agency, to this committee, to the former president, and to the American public.
But is there a reason you wouldn't just do what Stuart Knight did after the Reagan assassination attempt?
I believe that I provided an answer.
There's nothing more that you have to say? I mean, do you really believe at this moment, given how divided the country is and the questions asked, that your service in this role is the best for the nation? I mean, I'm not saying you can't do public service again, you can't do something else again. Do you really genuinely in your heart believe that you being in this role is what's right for America at this moment? I mean, do you think there are people who
That's enough. She's awful. She's not moving unless she's forced to move. Biden's not firing her. Of course, Biden's incommunicado, like a hostage from the basement at Rehoboth Beach, where he calls into Kamala's event. Hello, Nancy. No, it's Kamala. Hello, Sally. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan. Next hour, in addition to all this incredibly important information we're going to get to, we're going to have a special guest. His name's Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche leads every criminal case except Georgia in the defense of Donald Trump. And I figured that we really need to get an update on where we stand on some of these matters because they're still ongoing. So don't miss it. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want to slip in one more here, then I need to move on. Jim Jordan to the Secret Service Director. He was fantastic today. And this is all very, very important. Cut 8, go.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy who's going to be the next president. It looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be cautious.
You might want to, but you haven't answered, I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member, or me. Well, we got a lot of other people asking. We'll see if your record improves, but right now you haven't answered, I don't think, any questions. I yield back.
CNN, Kamala Harris has spent much more of her life as a prosecutor than as a senator or vice president. That's exactly how she's now going to run against Donald Trump. In sessions that were quietly underway at the Naval Observatory, even before Joe Biden's disastrous debate, Harris and her inner circle had already landed on the plan to look past whoever Trump picked as his running mate and focused almost exclusively on the former president. You see, Trump would be the convicted felon, she the great prosecutor. This shouldn't be that hard, America. How many illegal aliens of the 10 million or so who've crossed into our country under Harris Biden, that's what I'll call it from now on, Harris Biden, did Harris demand be prosecuted? How many violent rioters were let out of prison a few years back thanks to Harris supporting the release with contributions? How many women and children have been sold into slavery on the border since Harris Biden opened our borders? How many criminals entered our country? Gang members. Oh, this shouldn't be that hard, America. This shouldn't be too hard at all. Oh, but you know, he's a convicted felon. Yeah, lawfare. Lawfare. Donald Trump on the whole process, this whole scam that's taken place with the Democrat Party, and how the media don't even want to discuss it. Media have no problem with this. You heard Scarborough earlier. They have no problem with this because they're participants in this. The greatest disenfranchisement in American history by the party that says, well, we don't need voter ID. We don't need voters, according to them. And that's the nature of the Democrat Party. Ends justify the means. And President Trump picked up on this. Cut 25. Go.
Barack Obama is still plotting against you, trying to take you out.
They got some big problems over there. First of all, Obama hates Biden, and Biden hates Obama. And when Obama walked Biden out a couple of weeks ago off the stage, he didn't have to do that. He could have let him wave to the people a little bit longer. I don't know if Joe knew who he was waving to, but he was waving. And all of a sudden, Obama comes along, grabs him. Come on, Joe. Like he was a child. It made him look so bad. And I know people with Biden. I know people with Obama. And they were not happy about that. It made him look really bad, like a child. Like a child. They don't like each other. And I think that it's pretty tough. This guy got, 14, 15 million votes, delegates. He had the votes. So he goes through a process. He gets them. And the whole thing has been a con. Look, when they kept him in the basement in the first, those people should be looked at because they lied to the American public.
100%. Mr. Producer, I'm going to 27, okay? And here's J.D. Vance at a rally in Michigan Saturday. And, I wish he were debating Kamala Harris, even though Trump will wipe the floor with her. I think you would have seen J.D. Vance really shine, assuming that Kamala gets the nomination, and that's where the media and the Democrat Party are going. Cut 27, go.
Now, I've had such an incredible, blessed week. What a cool thing it was to be asked by President Trump to serve as his running mate and to get out there on the campaign trail. But there's some bad news, actually. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, she doesn't like me. Kamala Harris said something to the effect that I have no loyalty to this country. Well, I don't know, Kamala. I did serve in the United States Marine Corps and build a business. What the hell have you done other than collect a check? What has she done other than collect a check from her political offices? And we have to give her credit, my friends. She did serve as border czar during the biggest disaster open border that we've ever had in this country. Let's get President Trump back there, close down that border, and bring some common sense and security to this country.
But she was a prosecutor. She was a prosecutor, and a pretty damn lousy one. And as I recall, she prosecuted and sent to jail 1,500 people for using marijuana. She's a prosecutor. 1,500 people for using marijuana. Is that okay with everybody? Oh, and by the way, many of them were minorities. Ooh, you must be a racist for bringing that up. No, actually, I tell the truth. Actually, I tell the truth. And then the last clip I want to play, then we'll rip up the rest of them here. President Trump, Saturday, in Michigan, at his rally. Cut 26, go.
When Biden says, we have to stop MAGA, we will stop MAGA, I said, he doesn't know what MAGA stands for. It stands for Make America Great Again. How can you be against that? How can you be against it? And you know, the other side's going around trying to make me sound extreme, like I'm an extremist. I'm not. I'm a person with great common sense. I'm not an extremist at all. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation, and they keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy?
Amen. They haven't done anything against democracy. They just destroyed their entire primary process, and they're proud of it. They're beating their chests over that. They're patting each other on the back over it. That they stole the election from their own primary voters, and they're going to install somebody who hasn't gotten a single delegate on her own. Ah, yes. Democracy. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
folks, we're here with Todd Blanche, who leads every criminal case in defense of President Trump other than Georgia. How are you, sir? We've never spoken, have we?
We haven't. It's great to talk to you, although I feel like I know you. The president reads everything you write and watches everything you say, so I feel like we're old friends.
You know what? I watch everything you do, and you're damn good. And I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
You have to be damn good. You're in all these different courtrooms. You're fighting on different levels. You know, Manhattan is nothing like Florida. Florida is nothing like, you know, the January 6th, and yet you keep pounding away. So let's look at this right now. So where does Manhattan stand? You guys filed a fantastic appellate brief, a fantastic brief. So what do you do now? You're waiting for a hearing, what, in September sometime?
Yes. So the government puts in their opposition this week on Wednesday. We asked the judge for an opportunity to reply. He normally doesn't give replies to either party. I hope he'll give it to us. We'll put in a reply brief. But look, I think it's not open and shut in the sense that the judge still has to do some work and make a decision, but there's no dispute that a ton of evidence came in that trial that the Supreme Court has said absolutely, positively not allowed in. And so we're optimistic that the judge is going to do the right thing and throw that case out, but we're waiting till September. He's going to rule early September.
And you're sitting there, I'm sure you put yourself in the judge's position. How the hell do you separate it all out and pretend that the jury wasn't tainted? It's an impossibility, isn't it?
Impossibility. Listen, Hope Hicks testified about a conversation she had with President Trump in the White House, in the Oval Office, a key conversation responding to Michael Cohen when it was first released that he had made the payment to Stormy Daniels. In the summation, the government said that conversation was devastating to President Trump. The Supreme Court has said those types of conversations that a president is having with his key advisors are absolutely inadmissible at a trial. So that's, in some ways, should end the discussion in our mind right there. And by the way, we begged the judge, literally begged to the extent that litigants can do that, to adjourn the trial till after the Supreme Court ruled. We put motions in, we argued orally, we said, Judge, this is going to be in April, that's soon. Let's put this trial off until the Supreme Court rules. He denied that, and he didn't let us do that. He let in, there's not a single piece of evidence he excluded because of anything to do with immunity, and now here we are. So we'll see.
And the fact is, the judge doesn't even have to hold a hearing, does he? He lets them reply, he looks at the papers, he rules on the papers, and that's the end of it, correct?
That's what he does. He doesn't have oral argument. He's never allowed us to have oral argument. He just rules on the paper. So we're stuck with that. A lot of judges do that in New York State. And that's right, though. That's right. We'll sit back and wait. In early September, he issues his decision.
Now, let's say he's trying to, put this puzzle piece together and so forth and so on. And then he either does something that day or in a future day, we're going to deal with sentencing. What do you do then?
Listen, we're looking at everything. I mean that literally. I think depending on how he rules, if he rules against us, we'll look at the decision. If it's inconsistent with the Supreme Court, we have a lot of options. We can do everything from ask him to reconsider, which I doubt we'll do that, but we can do that, to go to the Supreme Court. And we're looking at every single option, whether it's appealing it directly to the First Department, which is the appellate court in New York, whether it's going across the street to the federal court in New York, the Southern District of New York, or going to the Supreme Court. Listen, if it happens, in our view, that is a crisis in America, and I mean that, and I don't say that lightly, because it's early September. He's then going to sentence President Trump September 18th if he rules against us. The election is November 5th, and it's crystal clear that this trial not only should never have been brought, but that the evidence that was used to convict President Trump, the Supreme Court has said it is not allowed. You say that to somebody, someone who's in high school or a civics, someone's taking civics, it writes itself. It's not complicated, that's it. So everything's on the table if that happens, and we'll see it depends on what the decision says, but everything's on the table.
My only concern is you get stuck in that laborious New York appellate process. You won't get it resolved for a while, but you're the lawyers, you're on the ground, you know what you're doing.
No, man, I agree with you. We, my partner and I were going to the First Department appeals so much that I felt like they were just going to give us a pass to get in, and every single time we lost. And so I couldn't agree with you more. But that's why we're going to be ready for everything. If we run into a brick wall with them when it comes to what's going to happen in September, we have options. We can go to federal court across the street. We have the thing that you report on, but a lot of people don't appreciate is President Trump has a great team around him, and I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about John Sauer and Will Sharp, like guys that are really smart appellate lawyers, and Emil, my partner, and there's just a lot of folks, and we're going to reach the right decision. And when someone says to me, "Are you thinking about doing X, Y, or Z?" the answer that I always give them is yes. We're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Absolutely, So we'll see.
You guys have done a hell of a job. I don't see why anybody would be criticizing it. Let me ask you this. Let's move on to the next one. We have this January 6th case. I won't give you my opinion of the judge. I've given it to the American people already. I don't want to get you stuck in the mud here. But that said, they got a lot of problems. You've got the obstruction decision, and that obstruction charge was bogus to begin with. You've got a prosecutor who takes these statutes, this is his habit, and rewrites them and tries to fit so-called facts into the statute. You've got the immunity issue in front of that court, too. Has she set any time to deal with anything?
No, she doesn't have the mandate back. So technically, she doesn't have the case back, so she's not allowed to. What she's indicated to us through her chambers is that she's going to have a conference in late August. But before that, I expect she'll issue some orders. But you're right. This case is a mess. It is a mess. The obstruction charges should be gone completely. And the immunity decision, which was right, by the way. You read what Justice Roberts wrote, and you read the concurring opinions. Excellent. We need a presidency. We need a presidency where a president can do his job, do her job, without being worried about a Joe Biden of the world coming along and indicting him a year after he leaves office. So that's a good decision. But listen, there's no scenario under which this indictment looks the same. If anything, it's down to, a few pages. And I was a prosecutor for a long time. Mm-hmm. And what we're supposed to do as a prosecutor in charge with enforcing the criminal laws of this country, putting people in jail potentially, is do the right thing. Full stop, period. And so what is the right thing to do right now? In our mind, it's just dismiss the case. Mm-hmm. And, President Trump says that on Truth, and he says that when he's when he's talking to the American people, and he's not a lawyer, and he says it, I think, as better than I do, but I agree with him. They don't have to continue. They can say, okay, we indicted this case, and the Supreme Court has just told us that what we did was wrong. And the Supreme Court is the law of the land. We're prosecutors. We're going to shut it down. Now, do you think for a second that's going to happen? I certainly don't. No. And so we're going to be stuck fighting it with Judge Chutkan, and we will fight it. Listen, and on that case, we have John Lauro and his partner, and again, we have a rock star bunch of lawyers that are helping the president here, and we're going to be, the second that she gets a mandate back, you're going to see a lot of the president's lawyers just jamming to get that case completely dismissed.
Well, they have a third problem, don't they? That is, Judge Cannon ruled that the special counsel is unconstitutional. Now, she can rule that she's going to ignore it, but she really can't just ignore that, can she?
No, and look, the D.C. Circuit has previously ruled the other way, but if you read Judge Cannon's decision combined with Justice Thomas's concurrence, it's her opinion, and for those of us geeks like certainly you and I guess me that are lawyers and have time to read a 93-page judicial opinion, she went so deep in the weeds on that case. She went and got documents from the Nixon case in the 70s.
It's a law review article.
Neither party gave her those. She did that on her own because she wanted to get it right. And so it's a beautifully written opinion. So I love it.
Hold on, Di. I don't want to lose you. I want to continue as we go through this. Very, very important. I want to go through these other cases. This is fantastic lawyer, Mr. Blanche here, who is basically running lead on all the cases except the Georgia case for President Trump. We'll be right back.
But then, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Todd Blanche leads every criminal case in defense of President Trump except in Georgia. Todd Blanche, I'm thinking about this January 6th case. It's not even a January 6th case. I don't know what the hell this case is. But that said, you've got the obstruction issue the judge has to deal with, and she has to get it right. The immunity issue she has to deal with, which is very, very complicated for them, too. And then, of course, you do have this issue overhanging, this whether the prosecutor is constitutional, whatever that judicial jurisdiction is decided. It's something that at some point has to be resolved by the Supreme Court. You're going to have the ability to really slow this down to a glacier's pace, aren't you?
Right. And by the way, slow it down has been criticized by folks on the other side of the aisle as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Supreme Court said, Justice Roberts said very clearly that the urgency and the expediency that everybody was going through this process was a mistake. And so we should go slowly. We're talking about issues that will affect America for generations to come. But you're absolutely right. Every one of these issues, especially the immunity issue, is going to go back to the Supreme Court. They almost invited it. They sent it back to Judge Chutkan with instructions for her to figure out what evidence was actually allowed in. But it indicated they wanted as full a record as possible before a trial, which is forecasting that they want to look at it again. And so this isn't going to be resolved before the election. The only question is whether Jack Smith and his team are going to try to do as much as they can before the election, in my view, just to embarrass President Trump and to make it impossible for him to be on the campaign trail because he's stuck in a courtroom in Washington, D.C. Look, think about New York. And I was with him for 6 weeks straight. He was in courtroom from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, 4 days a week, most weeks. And so you get one day off, a Wednesday. It's still very challenging to run a campaign when you're focused on your trial, when you're focused on all these criminal cases. So you would think that they won, right? Because they indicted him 4 times. They stuck him in a courtroom for most of April, all of May, and a little bit of June. And they think they have D.C. But the power of the American people is so amazing. And I've watched President Trump observe it firsthand because they didn't win. And he would leave that courtroom energized. We're all, you know what it's like, in a courtroom all day, Mark. You're exhausted. And he walks out fired up. It was, listen, he's an amazing man. That's for sure.
Remarkable. Now, here's the thing. So Kamala Harris, they've already leaked it to CNN. They're going to run on, she's a tough prosecutor and he's a convicted felon. Isn't that also another reason when you go into that court in September to say, look, we got to resolve this?
Yes.
You have handed another party a political issue. We're going to appeal this unless you resolve it right here. We need to get this resolved immediately because what's taking place here is absolutely interfering with the election process. So every time she opens her mouth about this, isn't that more and more evidence of what they're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Not only, yes, I mean, the short answer is you're totally right, but also the label of a convicted felon is so deceiving and so inappropriate and so wrong given the New York case. To those that sat through it and to those that know the case, we say this is a case that should have never been brought. Maybe we overplay that phrase, but when it comes to that case, I quit my law firm. I walked away from a partnership to represent President Trump because of that case, because I was so offended that an elected Democrat prosecutor would look at those facts and choose to indict a former president of the United States who was running for president again. Even if you accept every word that the prosecution put into evidence, which you shouldn't, by the way, but even if you did, it's not even a crime. It's not a crime. And so to now be able to label him a convicted felon and Kamala announced that she's a prosecutor because she was a prosecutor a long, long time ago in San Francisco is, you're right. It's the definition of election interference. It is. It's really unfortunate that we're here, but here we are.
Yeah, and as vice president, this prosecutor has allowed more illegal aliens, criminals, drug pushers, sex slavery, child pornography, gang members into this country, and I don't remember her arguing that these people should be prosecuted either. Let's move on to another issue very, very quickly, which is this. In that courtroom in Florida, the issue of the appointments clause. I'm chairman of Landmark Legal Foundation. We had some very smart lawyers there arguing with us.
Yes.
I watched and listened. You know, my guys tell me that the two former attorneys general, they had great lawyers too, but they also said your guy was really, really sharp. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh man, yes. So we had a lot of help from those guys. The amicus briefs, Attorney General Mukasey, Attorney General Mace, Attorney General Mukasey showed up in that courtroom and sat next to us all day Friday, which is when you see a former, he was a former chief judge in Manhattan, a federal court, and then he was the Attorney General, and so that was powerful. But Emil Bovee, my partner, former prosecutor from Manhattan, chief of terrorism, and just he clerked for two great judges. He's an amazing legal mind, and he put together an argument that really makes logical sense. The folks on the left make fun of this decision, but it's a very basic concept in our judicial structure, which is that you're empowering somebody with the power to indict another individual, to send another individual to prison, to authorize search warrants. And what Congress has said and what the laws have said and what Article 2 of the Constitution says is that person that can be authorized to do those things, to such significant things to an American citizen, has to be nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And there's certain exceptions, but I'll tell you, an exception is not that the Attorney General of the United States can just go find some private citizen and say, hey, why don't you come and prosecute and investigate and prosecute President Trump? No nomination from the presidency, no confirmation by the Senate. And so if you think about it again, as a high school civics student, that is completely logical and right. And so it took 93 pages to get there because it's a complicated issue, because there are exceptions and there's a lot of statutory construction and case law. But look, Emil Bovee, my partner, is the smartest lawyer I know, and again, assisted in a lot of ways with the amicus briefs and with the folks that we had helping us with our team. And Judge Cannon, it's easy to make fun of the decision because the D.C. Circuit came out a different way. Read that brief. Read the opinion. Everybody that calls me about it and asks me what I think, I send it to them. I said, read it and let me know what you think. So we'll see. But nothing made me happier, and hopefully the American people that maybe don't know the details, but to wake up Monday morning, the week of the Republican convention, and right after really one of the darkest days that we've had in a long time, on Saturday with President Trump almost being assassinated, and to have Judge Cannon just put her foot down and say, I'm not going to let this happen, this case is dismissed, it started to restore my faith in the justice system. I hope it did you too, but it was a good day.
And the efforts to intimidate her on cable TV and these clownish law professors and these clownish former prosecutors making these preposterous statements, you know what? It would have been very, very hard for me to come up with a strong argument against the position that this guy was appointed in violation of the Appointments Clause. And, at the Constitutional Convention, they spent a lot of time on this.
Right.
It wasn't a quick decision. They spent a lot of time on this. Hold on. And then the D.C. Circuit Court spent almost no time on it. Go ahead.
Right. That's right. By the way, this same liberal left media, former DOJ guys that are on all these stations mocking Judge Cannon, she is a Colombian-born, brilliant lawyer who was a federal prosecutor in the appeals unit, clerked for the circuit court. It's easy when a judge doesn't roll your way to mock and make fun, which is what they've done. But every time anybody does that, I just say, go read her opinions. Go read them. Tell us where she erred. Tell us where she did something that was a contrary to law, or even not didn't make sense logically. She was great. And I don't say that because we won. I say that because she took every single issue we raised with her, whether it was a very small issue or significant issue, and dealt with it like she was dealing with the biggest case in the country in a very thoughtful and I think appropriate way. So it really broke my heart to see. I was a DOJ guy for a long time. To see DOJ alumni just mocking her and criticizing her, it's a sad state. But guess what? We can fix it, and we're going to fix it. And that's why, I thought the convention last week was amazing. We're on our way to November, so let's go.
Todd Blanche, there's only one guy on cable TV that said that case is not a slam dunk, and that was me. And I'll tell you why, even if they got to the substance. But I think it's amazing. A lot of these litigators, don't they know about the motion practices and all? It's like, What are you, crazy? Right. You're not going to get right to a trial here. People have motions to file.
Listen, I'm on all three cases, like 3 of the 4 cases. The Florida case, in my mind, had the biggest evidentiary issues of any of those cases. And yes, everybody's instinct was like, this is the quickest path to a conviction. No freaking way. Like that, I'm glad we won, but we had a lot going for us in that case. But by the way, I don't want to, that's not really the point of this conversation, I don't think. I mean, look, they shouldn't have been brought, right? It's why you shouldn't engage in lawfare. And I hope that we don't. I hope that when we take office, when President Trump is reelected, and he won't, by the way, he won't. If you look at how he acted when he was president, he won't do that because it's the wrong thing to do. And I respect him. I've respected him for a long time, but now I more than respect him. I think he's a real rock star for what he's going through and what he's doing. And I listen. I got nothing bad to say about that guy.
Todd Blanche, pleasure to talk to you. Pleasure to get to know you a little bit, and I'm sure the millions of listeners agree with me. Keep it up, baby.
Thank you. Anytime that you want to speak with me, you just let me know. I love talking to you. And like I said, and to all your listeners, one of your listeners is President Donald J. Trump. He listens to everything you say, and you were almost always exactly in line with what I was thinking, which made my job easier. So thank you.
Well, you're really kind. Keep it up. We really appreciate you. Take care, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Mark. All right, bye.
God bless. Boy, is he good. I mean, balancing all these cases at once in these different jurisdictions, these different constitutional issues, criminal issues. Wow. It's exhausting just talking about it, isn't it, Mr. Producer? No, he's very, very good. I never spoke to him before, and I'm impressed. This program is almost over, for God's sakes. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Just to give you an example of what goes on here, the Washington Compost headline in their editorial page, Mr. Biden's decision, where they kiss his ass. Ruth Marcus, what's next for the Democrats? Another hack. That I know well. Then we have Michelle Norris, Democrats, pass over Harris at your own peril. So that's about race and sex. David Ignatius, a.k.a. David Obnoxious, for Joe Biden, who never gave up. E.J. Dion Jr., another clown. A decision made to save the soul of the nation. Wow. Then we have David Van Dreidel. Time casts its 2024 vote. The Democratic Party is suddenly neck-deep in democracy, as ambitious younger leaders splash wildly after the ultimate prize in politics. It's all good. Not one friggin' column or editorial comment about stealing the primary election from the primary voters. Not one. What a bunch of... Can't say what I'm thinking, but you know what I'm thinking. I want to salute all you heroes out there, all you patriots. God love you. Nothing ever will come between us. This is where the patriots meet every evening, right here at our National Town Hall meeting. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.